The next principle we're going to talk about is in chapter number 3, principle number 3, a cry or the cry. And so this is a tough one for me because I've always been a person that if I want something, I ask for it or I go for it. And in fact, it's almost to the point where I have had to learn to draw back because I ask for too much or I act like I deserve too much or I put myself in places where I'm asking for what people just don't have to give. And so for me this was a real hard read. So what did you take away from principle number 3?
Well, I did say earlier when you were talking about the whole slapping thing, when you were slapping your knees, well,
Yeah.
this chapter talks about how men, we there's a lot, whenever we have pain, people tend to ignore it
Mhm.
because we're men, and people think, well, you're a man, so you can have tough love or something, like they believe in this concept of
Yeah.
tough love.
Mhm.
Now that might work for some people, but that doesn't work for everybody.
Mhm.
There's a lot of men, and especially in today's age, there's a lot of men who just, that type of tough love could send them into depression or make them think of doing things that you don't want to ever think about in this day and age. It's just,
Mm.
times have really changed since you were a kid.
And
It's
tell me,
different.
how have times changed since I was a kid?
Responsibilities.
Like what?
Well,
Because I used to come home from school and clean the whole house top to bottom.
exactly.
Technically, my sister and brother were supposed to do more, but they didn't. And I didn't want us to get in trouble. And they knew it.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
So I should make you come home and clean the house top to bottom.
No, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying lots of responsibilities. Like the way kids are, they barely do any chores. Like they find the fact that I have to do chores to be like bad. Like
Really?
I don't understand it because they think it's a bad thing. Like to have a daily chore or to have a weekly chore or something like that is not good. You should. That's like a punishment apparently. It's just
It's not
something
part
to.
of just not just part of being a family.
It's just part of being a family. And if you get in trouble or something like that, well, I mean, they don't really have to. They still don't have to. Even if they get in trouble big time, like they lose their phone for like 2 days, and it's like, and then after that, it's like, whatever.
Mm.
But like, no, you should take responsibility for that. Own up to it. Be honest. You messed up. So take a couple weeks. Take a couple months. Not saying I want a couple months. Not saying I would want a couple months. But I'm just saying you gotta do the things because like your parents are gonna. If your parents are gonna tell you to do something, don't whine and cry about it. You messed up.
Well, I think
Do
it's
it.
going to be interesting to see what happens in the workforce because there's a lot of innovation that your generation brings to the table,
Mm-hmm.
but without responsibility and without being able to stand on their own feet, it's going to be really difficult to translate that into the future life that they want.
Right.
And so in this one, um, it's really what's really struck me is about being able to listen and understand that even though there's this tough guy persona, that a lot of times that tough guy persona is really a cry for help. And that's another thing. Now I want to pull up this comment real quick because this was related to the last chapter, but I think it's important with this chapter as well about being more intentional about preparing young people. And yes, I think we're talking about being more intentional about preparing young people to be part of the world, which is why I'm open to talking to you about girls because I realize I would rather you get your information about girls from your mama than from anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot about being a girl. I know a lot about what girls think. I know about a lot about the games their moms play when they're trying to entrap a young man. Whew. So this is it's very important to have that positive role model. But how does somebody break through that tough guy exterior? Because you're big at saying, "Well, I don't need any help."
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I act. I don't really like to ask from too much help from people. I like to be able to just get through things myself.
Hmm. Can I tell you something that I found very interesting?
Mhm.
As I'm studying with my dissertation and stuff, I have found a very curious distinction that a lot of lower income people have this, I'm going to do it all myself. I'm the tough guy. I never need anybody. Whereas very high income people, they are trained early in life that you need a network and you need to build relationships with people, and that these are the relationships that are going to take you further. Whereas people in poverty tend to just relationships with whoever who's there, whoever's in the same situation. People who are more successful tend to develop an intentional network of people that they can lean on when they need help. And in fact, the higher up you go, the more likely the people that I've observed, and agree, and again, my it's my one experience, it's one person's experience, right? It may not matter to everybody, but what I've observed is that the higher up the person goes, the more they lean on others and the less they themselves are holding in or responsible, not necessarily with emotions, but as far as asking for help in an area that they're not good at. Like the highest earning people that I know that mentor me, in a minute, they'll be like, who's better at this than I am? Let me get them on my team. Let me get them on my side. Let me get them to take care of this for me. Let me get them to educate me. Let me take them out to lunch and ask them how to do this. And so I find it very interesting where you have this dichotomy of, oh, I'm going to build a network, whereas at the bottom, it's, I'm going to do it all myself. And with everybody doing it all themselves, they get so worn out, they never have the energy to rise above. That's not in the book. That's just me talking. But I think the book is kind of pointing to some of these issues. Okay.